I'm your host, Queen Amadaj Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. Okay, so I'm down here at the court. There isn't going to be a lot going on today, in my opinion. They're going to have some arguments about the question that the jurors asked on yesterday about the distribution of illegal substances. And they're going to have to hash that out this morning because, as I told you on yesterday, the judge gave both the defense and the prosecution about 50 minutes to settle it on yesterday. He said it's 10 after 5, and by 6 o'clock, you all need to have this hashed out so that this morning when the jurors arrive at 9 o'clock a.m., they can tell them the answer to their question. So for those of you who missed it, let's talk about it. So basically, the jurors said they weren't able to come to a decision yesterday, which I don't think anybody expected them to. It was quite early. And they said they would be back again this morning at 9 a.m. Now, the judge is not going to have them come into the jury room. He's going to basically have them go straight into the deliberating room. The question they had, they wrote a letter to the judge, and basically, I'm sorry, here comes noise, you guys. Hold on for just a second. These sirens in New York are something else. Hold on for a second. Okay, hopefully it's going the other way. Now, with that being said, their question was, if there's distribution of illegal substances, which is one of the counts that Diddy's charged with, does that pertain to the fact of someone coming to a party, for example, and passing these out to people who want to take them? And of course, Maureen Comey, who's the lead prosecutor, said yes, absolutely yes. And Mark Agnifilo said no. So there was a discrepancy on that. But here's the thing. If we go by the rule of law, the law is what the law is, okay? So that being said, how is Maureen Comey going to say yes to the question? Agnifilo says no to the question. And then the judge says that the two sides need to get together and hash it out, okay? When the law should be cut and dry. The bottom line is Maureen Comey knows good and darn well that if I have a party at my house and four of my, or not even a party, if I have three or four friends at my house or anybody, and I have illegal substances, and these people do illegal substances, and we're all sitting there doing these illegal substances together, she knows that's not distribution, okay? When people get arrested for possession with intent to distribute, that's because they have a large supply that the police are able to know, using just common sense, that this is more than just for personal use. So if you have more than personal use, and usually this will be bagged up and packaged to a way that you know they're going to distribute it to other people and they're going to get money for that. That's distribution. So, you know, like I told you guys, the things that I don't like about this case with the prosecution specifically is because they're telling a lot of lies, in my opinion. They're painting narratives, and they're desperate because their case is paper thin. Okay, that's just what it is. And I feel like they know that they're behind, and that's why they're pressed, and they're raising all these objections, you know, and they're getting upset with the defense for putting on a good show with the closing arguments, and they objected to some of the things that Agnifilo said, but nobody objected when Maureen Comey got up there and embellished the entire story. I'm not going to say she lied because Diddy did, in fact, stomp Cassie, but he did not stomp her for 10 minutes in the face, okay? That's what he didn't do, okay? And there was no proof that they were that they were in the midst of a freak-off, as she said, because she claims that's why he was wearing a towel, when Cassie clearly said that when she snuck out of the room, Diddy was either in the shower or on the phone. Now, if you're in the shower, that would make sense as to why you had on a towel. They also never proved that there was actually a third person in that room. Now, they said there was, but they didn't prove it. We didn't see any actual proof. And why wasn't that in the incident report that the security guard took? Okay, I just want you all to pay attention. Now, that being said, let's get back to this distribution. I have multiple that's where the intent comes in. If you have multiple bags, that's where Lucky Lady says that's where the intent comes in. Yes, if you have it packaged up like you're going to distribute it to people and you're going to get money for it, you're going to sell it, absolutely. But this was for personal use. So she's saying, and she said this days ago, which is now why the jurors are confused. They're confused because of Maureen Comey. Because days ago, the prosecution said that he was distributing illegal substances because he gave it to Cassie and Jane Doe during the freak-offs. Now, we all know that Cassie had a rug problem. We already know that her and Diddy were addicts. They both OD'd. Okay? So you mean to think that if somebody who's an addict is doing illegal substances, another person who's an addict is not going to be doing them too or want to do them too? That's not distribution. Okay? And also, let us not forget that Cassie seems as though she were more into the substances than Diddy. Because remember, she admitted on the stand that she was stealing Diddy's rugs with a D. She was stealing his. Do you all remember that? Do you also remember how Diddy got upset with her friend Brianna Bongalon, the one that lied and said Diddy dangled her from the 17th floor balcony? Yes, she lied because none of the stuff she said added up and made sense. She said it was at a balcony at Cassie's apartment. She said it was on September the 26th of 2016. Cassie said that it was on the balcony of a hotel in her lawsuit. And then we saw the proof and receipts, literally the receipts and invoices that Diddy was completely in another state. So, but remember how Diddy was upset with Cassie for hanging out with Brianna Bongalon. And he said that that girl was letting her do too many illegal substances. And he said that if you're friends with somebody, you don't let them get effed up. Now, I'm all for the right, I'm all for victims, and I'm all for justice. But as I said, and you all know that I'm a social justice warrior. So I'm not going to sit here and say what people want to hear because some people don't like Diddy. I never said I like Diddy. The bottom line is what I do like is the truth. What I do like is things to be done in the right way. I don't like people getting railroaded. I don't like people telling lies and painting false narratives. Because when you do that, if they can do it to Diddy, they could do it to anyone. If they can sit there and lie and say that because somebody got flued out, that's S trafficking, what are they going to say for the men, the other men who fly out these beautiful Instagram models? Are they going to be arrested for S trafficking too? What are they going to say to those of us who may have a party at our house and we might want to smoke Mary Jane? And then the other people who come, we let them smoke it too because that's what they do. Are we all going to be considered arrested for distribution? Okay, so these are just some things to think about. All right, at the end of the day, I don't like it and it's just not sitting well with me. Diddy is guilty of some things. Why didn't they charge him for the domestic violence? Okay, they showed that video enough. There is actual proof that he actually did that. They didn't charge him with domestic violence. And if they didn't charge him with domestic violence, why has domestic violence been such an integral point in this trial when clearly it has nothing to do with the charges? That's what we should be asking ourselves. Okay, there are other things that have been brought up at this trial that Diddy is not charged with. If he's not charged with it, why do they keep bringing it up? I'm going to tell you why, and I'm so glad that you asked. The reason they bring these things up is because they want to paint him as a monster. I'm not saying that he isn't a monster, okay? But the bottom line is they want people to see him as a monster, so they judge him by his immoral acts, okay? By his nefarious behavior, rather than by the evidence, the testimony, and the facts and the receipts. As I've told you all a myriad of times, that the police always say knowing something and proving it are two different things. Maureen Comey and the rest of the prosecutors, they may know that Diddy has done certain things. They may know that he's guilty of these things, but they have not proven it, and that's the problem. So when you cannot prove your case, you don't get to lie and make up things. You don't get to embellish stories. That's what you don't get to do. And then you don't get to object when the defense does their job and tries to defend to the best of their ability as they're paid to do their own clients. That's what you don't get to do. And for those of you who feel like, oh, I'm for Diddy and I've changed my stance, well, I have changed my stance. I'm not for Diddy, I'm for justice. And right now I'm for the defense. With that all being said, you don't get to sit there and think that your opinion is better than mine or anyone else's, because we're all entitled to have our opinions. And just because you don't like mine and you don't like or want to hear what I'm saying doesn't give you the right to try to talk trash. Because guess what? I don't condemn people because they have contrary views or opinions. That's what I don't do. Because I know that in real life, we all should feel free to voice our views, thoughts, and opinions, whether they're contrary, controversial, whether other people love them or hate them. That's what we all should get to do. I'm not going to call people nasty names. I'm not going to talk bad about them because they don't agree with what I think. Okay? That's what ignorant people, obtuse people, that's what they do. People who think that their thoughts and views are the only ones relevant, who think that what they have to say about something is the only thing that matters, but not anyone else, because that's just ignorant. Okay? So that all being said, let's get into it, because this morning I cannot wait to see how the prosecution and the defense has arrived at a conclusion as to how they're going to answer this question for the jurors. But also, let's talk about jury number 25. Now, some people seem to think that juror number 25 that was supposedly being a problem, who didn't want to follow the judge's instructions, some people seem to think that that juror is for Diddy. Some people say that juror is not for Diddy. Well, I'm going to tell you that from the information I have received, that person is not for Diddy. That person already seemed to have made up their mind before they reviewed the evidence or whatever. And basically, they were ready to give their decision within about 2 hours of deliberating. So the other jurors were concerned because they felt that this person is rushing to judgment, making a rushed and hasty decision without reviewing the facts or going by the instructions given per the judge. Jurors is being paid. Well, here's the thing. You think jurors are being paid? Well, you need to prove that. Because when you say things that you have no proof, basis, or foundation for, that opens you up to defamation lawsuits. We don't know if jurors have been paid. What makes you think they have? You see, people who don't like Diddy, if Diddy were to get off, that's what they would say. Oh, he bought the jurors. He did this, he did that. But you have no proof of it. Okay, so that's where you get yourself in trouble. You see, the sad thing is people who don't like the fact that other people disagree with them because they're too idiotic to know that other people's opinions matter just as much as theirs, they will paint narratives and make excuses and tell lies just to make themselves feel better or to make it seem as if they were right. That's something that I will never do. But let me continue. Now, here's what they say. So they say, Sean Diddy Combs previously faced issues with the jury pool when the judge dismissed a juror early in June, while another juror was under scrutiny, but they ended up remaining on the case. Now, problems within the jury could have been avoided, according to attorney David S. Seltzer, who says that simply sequestering the jurors throughout the duration of the 7-week trial could have prevented additional issues reaching the verdict. And I absolutely agree. I told you guys from day one, I thought this was so asinine. Why would you not sequester the jury? Why would you tell them to go home, don't listen to anything someone says about the case, don't talk about the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else, don't do research online? Do you think these people are not doing research online? Do you think these people are not reading comments and looking at YouTube videos and other social media? Of course they are. Tell me one of you that would not be doing it if you were a juror. Tell me one of you that would not be doing that if you were a juror. People want to know what other people are saying and what other people are thinking. And sometimes what other people say and think influences the minds and thoughts of certain people. Now, not all of us. Some of us are free thinkers, like myself. I base my decisions and my thoughts and I formulate my opinions off of the facts, the proof, and the receipts. What you can prove, what you can show me. Not what I feel, because nobody cares about your feelings. Not how my emotions are flowing. No, none of that matters, okay, at the end of the day. Now, Seltzer goes on to say that I don't see how people are not influenced by outside factors. Well, I don't see that either. Please make it all make sense. We live in a technology world where everyone wants their information now. I know the jury was instructed not to read anything, but I don't think that was realistic given the length of the trial. It absolutely is not realistic. Let me tell you something. If somebody is married and they go home to their spouse and their spouse is asking them about the case or how they feel about it or what happened today in court, you don't think they're talking about that? You don't think they're discussing that? Of course they are. Okay, I'd be hard pressed to think that they weren't. Now, with that all being said, moderators, if you see any trolls, hey, that Crazy Beach Aries. Okay, if you see any trolls, block them. Okay, block them. Good morning, Alice, beloved. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. For those of you who don't like what the Queen is saying, if you're biased and you're worried that I'm not, well, I absolutely am not. And so with that all being said, you can go watch another channel. I'm never pressed for views. I'm never going to paint narratives, false narratives. That's what I'm not going to do, or push false or self-serving agendas just to get clicks and views. I don't have to do that, okay? Now, with that all being said, for those who don't like it, rather than wasting your time saying asinine things in the chats, you can just go watch someone else's channel. Okay, by all means. Now let me continue. Seltzer noted that not sequestering the jury was a mistake. He said, I've been saying that from day one, that it is impossible for people to stay off media and or computers for 6 weeks plus, okay, when people are addicted to their devices. We all have computers in our hands, in our pockets, in our purses. They're called cell phones. You think these people are not getting Google alerts? You think these people are not looking at social media? Who thinks that is really realistic? Okay? Who thinks that's realistic? Now, Daniel John, I know you love Diddy apparently, but please stop spamming my chat saying free Diddy. I'm going to have the moderators to time you out. Okay? I'm going to have the moderators to time you out. We get it, okay? You want to free Diddy, okay? But please don't keep putting the same thing over and over. That is spamming the chat, all right? Now, with that all being said, Seltzer noted that by not sequestering the jury, it was a mistake. Now, the jury sent 2 notes to the court throughout the 5.5 hours of deliberations. The first note from the jury claimed one juror could not follow Judge Arwen Subramanian's instructions. After a lengthy discussion on what to send back to the jury, Judge Subramanian adopted the language of the note proposed by the prosecution. The note read, I received your notes. I remind every juror of their duty to deliberate and their obligation to follow my instruction on the law. With that instruction in mind, please continue deliberating. The note also explained not to include specific details about deliberations in any future notes. Courts will always push a jury to get to a unanimous verdict. But at the end of the day, it is up to the jury if they think they can get there. Oftentimes, when there are issues within the jury, according to Seltzer, they cannot get there and it ends up in a hung jury. You see, that's why they're concerned. These jurors, I'm sure, want to come to a unanimous decision. They don't need someone who doesn't want to follow the judge's instructions to mess things up. Because what happens if there's a hung jury? Well, you know, the judge may tell them, get in there and sort it out. We're not going to have a mistrial. We're not going to end in a hung jury. Go back in there and keep at it until you come to a unanimous decision. Well, I'm sure these people are tired. They've been here for weeks, and they likely want to celebrate the 4th of July. They don't want to have this hanging over their head, okay, the day before the 4th. They don't want to have to worry about after the 4th coming back the next Monday to still try to come to a decision. They want to go ahead and resolve this. So with that all being said, they don't want somebody being problematic when there's no need to be. But of course, they do have alternates. Now, my suggestion would be, if asked, and I wasn't asked, but however, my suggestion would be that if this person feels that they cannot follow the judge's instructions, and if they do not want to, you know, participate in the deliberations any further, because I was told, and this is speculation, so please take it with a grain of salt, but I was told that this person supposedly said they can't do it. They want to go. They don't want to be there. And the judge said no, allegedly, this is what I was told again, that the judge said, no, you're going to stay there. If that is the case, then they should just bring in an alternate, in my opinion, because they still have 5 alternates left. Now, right before the end of the court day, the jury asked for clarification regarding the alleged distribution of rugs, with a D, saying if a recipient asks for a controlled substance and another person hands it over to them, are they distributing? I would say no, especially if that person was a whole addict. Okay, who's going to take the illegal substances whether you give it to them or not? And you're not selling it to them. And you didn't even buy it for them, you bought it for yourself. Now, the judge told the court that the jury would be given an answer on Tuesday. So like I said, I'm waiting to hear this morning. I'm anxious to find out how this is all going to turn out. Now, while sequestering a jury essentially Isolating the 12 jurors and 6 alternates assigned to the case from the outside world can be challenging. The process may prove to be essential in eliminating external influences, because that's likely exactly what's happening here with this juror number 25, who does not want to obey the judge's instructions. Probably has seen some things online, heard some YouTubers, and maybe has already come to a decision based on what other people outside of the jury pool is in fact saying. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but that absolutely could be the case. Sequestering was the best thing for them to do, in my opinion. I told you all that, like I said, from day one. Now, Albany-based criminal defense attorney Paul Hassanian explained to Fox News Digital that jurors may have been swayed by the internet and access to social media. I absolutely believe it. Unfortunately, courts are reluctant to utilize one of the few tools historically used to inoculate jurors against external sources of information during a trial or deliberations. Sequestration would be the answer. We did see sequestration of the jury in the Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson trials. Sequestration in a federal trial is virtually non-existent in recent history. So they just don't do it anymore. They think that it's too much to ask of the jurors. They think that, you know, these people want to be able to go home. They don't want to sit somewhere isolated from their family, friends, and loved ones for weeks on end. Well, I understand that's inconvenient, but when you sign up for jury duty, okay, you vow that you're going to do the right thing, that you're going to be, you're going to work with the rest of the people on the jury to come to a decision on the trial that you're facing, or that you're, presiding over, watching, or whatever. But with that all been said, they need to go back to that, okay? Because now you have a myriad of problems. And again, we live in a technology age. This is an information age. How do you expect people not even to accidentally see some things? How do you expect people not to even accidentally see some things? People pick up their phone to call somebody. They want to call a Lyft and Uber. They want to order food from DoorDash for whatever reason. They pick up their phones, and what if there's alerts, notifications on social media? What if people are texting them things about the case and they accidentally click on it? So whether you do it purposely, intentionally, or accidental, you're going to be seeing things that pertain to this case that happen and that are said outside of the jury pool. That's just a fact. Okay? So I just think that was not a good idea. Now, John J Peristine, a Los Angeles litigator, admitted that it would be naive to believe that jurors universally adhere to these instructions and not read up on the situation they find themselves in. I'm sorry, they absolutely do. He says, I don't believe that any jury needs to be sequestered unless it's a safety concern, saying the instructions are what they are. The jurors are admonished daily, and all one can hope for is that they abide. Well, we can hope that they abide, but do they really? No, they don't. And again, like I said, they don't even have to purposefully do this. It could be absolutely on accident. They could see something. Okay, someone could send them a video from Instagram. Someone could send them a YouTube video or whatever. And out of curiosity, they click on it. Or accidentally, they click on it when they're just going to look at their phone. So I just don't think it makes any sense. Now, that being said, Diddy remained in the courtroom for about 20 minutes after the judge decided to provide the jury with the government's proposed response to their first letter. He was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys. On his way out of the courtroom, he held up the 2 books he had with him. One is The Power of Positive Thinking. The other is The Happiness Advantage. Now, the jury was sent to deliberate around 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by the federal judge after lengthy instructions. Authorities charged Diddy with racketeering, 2 counts of trafficking, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Okay, if convicted, he could face life in prison. Here's another thing I want to point out. I think that they have possibly proven, in my opinion, I think they have proven the transportation to engage in prostitution. I think they have proven that. Okay, I think they have proven that. But here's the thing. Diddy is facing life in prison. Let's talk about it. I believe that Diddy is guilty of some things. Do I think Diddy deserves a life sentence? Not for what he's charged with. Not for what he's charged with, even if convicted. I don't think he deserves a life sentence. I don't. And here's why. First of all, he's not on trial for murdering anyone. He's not on trial for taking anyone's life. Okay? He's not on trial for doing something to children. Another thing is, let's talk about Sammy Gravano, Sammy the Bull, who was actually in a real organized crime, a real RICO enterprise, who was accused of RICO, who also turned snitch and told on his mob boss, who was also responsible for 19 murders. Were the people he had murdered or that he murdered, were they innocent? I don't know. But the point is, whether they were innocent or not, he claims they were not innocent. But whether they were innocent or guilty, who's he? That he gets to play judge, jury, and executioner. 19 people dead at this man's hands. Is he in life? Is he spending life in prison? No. This man is on YouTube right now. He's a whole content creator like myself. And even after he got the deal of a lifetime and was put in the witness protection program for his own safety, he gets involved in an ecstasy distribution plot. Selling ecstasy. Still out here committing crimes. But Diddy should get a life sentence for these charges? Now, if we want to put him on trial and find him guilty of having something to do with the murder of Tupac or Biggie or Kim Porter, and he's found guilty, life sentence. Life sentence. But for what he is charged with right now, if we're being honest and unbiased and looking at the facts and the evidence that have been presented by both sides, life sentence? I don't think so. I don't think so. And here's another thing. What about Mike Jeffries, Abercrombie and Fitch? I broke that story first. I told you all about that story, and I told you before he was indicted that he would be indicted. And when he was indicted, they gave him a bail, but not Diddy. An excuse for them giving him a bail is, oh, he's not a threat to the public. Didn't some of his victims accuse him of intimidation? Because he's older than Diddy, he's not a threat? I don't think it was because he's older than Diddy. I think it's because his skin is lighter than Diddy's. Okay? I think it's because his skin tone is lighter than Diddy's. And now we hear he's not even facing charges, period. Because now, conveniently, they say he has diminished capacity or he has dementia. Okay, you understand what I'm saying here? You understand what I'm saying here? So the bottom line is, whether you like Diddy or not, you don't have to like Diddy. I don't like Diddy. I've never liked Diddy. But I also don't like racism being enacted and being put on the scales of justice, because justice is supposed to be blind. But it isn't. Because I happen to see people who look like me don't get the same treatment as people who don't look like me. And when somebody hops in my chat like somebody did yesterday and says to me, oh, you want to make his defense about race? No, I don't have to make his defense about race. The United States of America made it about race. And when they say to me, do you want to play the race card? Well, sometimes, as people who look like me, that's the only card that they give us. Okay? And that's just the fact. Now, with that all being said, you can love it or you can hate it. But the truth is the truth. We know that the justice system is not evenly and fairly distributed to people who look like me and who look like Diddy. So guilty or not, find the man guilty with facts, proof, and receipts. But let's not lie. And let's not try to call things crimes that are not crimes. Okay? Or let's not try to call it a crime that it actually isn't. Because, of course, it is illegal to do illegal substances and to share them with people. But is that rug distribution? We all know that it isn't. Okay, that's what we know. If we're being honest and unbiased and we're not thinking and all in our feelings and emotions. See, some people can't do that. Specifically, some people who look like me. They cannot stay out of their feelings. It's facts over feelings on this channel, and it's facts over feelings all day, every day, and twice on Sunday for the Queen. Now, some of y'all are not gonna like this. I'm gonna do y'all a favor right now. If you don't like what the Queen is cooking, why don't you exit stage left, unfollow, unsubscribe, and you do not have to be in this chat. But what I will say is, for those of you who simply disagree respectfully, you can stay here. The moderators won't block you for disagreeing because my moderators have sense enough to know, at least I hope, because I've told them a myriad of times, that people don't have to agree with me. You can disagree with me. You don't have to believe or feel the same way about what I'm saying as I do. That's no problem. But if you come on here being disrespectful, calling me names or disrespecting someone else in the chat or whatever, you know, you have to go. Because your opinion is not the only one that counts. Okay? Curtis says the black community stay lifting up the wrong ish. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm not lifting up anything but truth and justice. And it should be equally distributed. You see, Curtis, the problem is people like you think that because you don't like someone, you get to say it's okay for them to be charged unfairly and treated unethically or unfairly in the judicial system. But I bet you would not have the same smoke or the same energy if that were you. Period. I'm not lifting up anything but truth and justice, okay? And how it should be equally and fairly distributed. With that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in, okay? I appreciate you all. For those of you who agree, that's fine. For those of you who disagree, that's fine. But do not come in my chat being disrespectful to me or anyone else, okay? Let's not do that. So with that all being said, let me finish up this before I go. Now they say prosecutors began closing arguments Thursday with a focus on Diddy's alleged stance as the leader of a criminal enterprise, a point they've attempted to drive home to the jurors with more than 30 witness testimonies. Now, his defense team, headed by Mark Agnifilo, argued Friday, and here's the thing, I'm definitely not going to argue with anybody who's not actually here. If you're not here, sitting in the main courtroom every day as I am, if you're not here, at least in the overflow room, as some people are, I'm not arguing with you. Because you may think you know what the hell's going on, but I promise you, you don't. Unless you're sitting here and seeing it and hearing it for yourself. Because it's a whole lot different when you're going by updates and text. Okay? I said the same thing when I was doing that. That's why it came here, so I could get the real deal for myself. Now, with that all being said, his defense team, headed by Mark Agnifilo, argued Friday that the prosecution's evidence proved that the government was unfairly targeting Diddy and insisted he was innocent of the charges. If found guilty, the rapper faces a minimum of 15 years behind bars and a maximum sentence of life in prison. Diddy has maintained his innocence throughout his trial. And here's another thing I find interesting. Some people get upset. Somebody says, stop promising things you will never do. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't like it, you know what you can do. You don't have to be on this channel, beloved. It's so easy. Listen, if my talking points upset you, bother you, and you're not getting what you want to hear, go listen to Tisa Tales. Go listen to Trent Out Loud. Go listen to anybody other than me. You don't have to listen to me. They're here reporting on it too. So you can go listen to them. Go check them out, okay? That's what you can do. I'm giving you help. You do not have to be on my channel. Because I only want people on this channel that actually want to be here. You see, it doesn't bother me if I don't have as many views or subscribers as other people. It doesn't bother me at all. Because the bottom line, I'm going to tell the truth and I'm going to give you my unfiltered opinion, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, beloveds, by all means, go elsewhere. I've just told you where to go. Now, if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm pretty sure you'll like what they're saying. So please, by all means, just go. Now, that being said, okay, that's right. Nisa said, get the hell off her channel. Exactly. But you know why they're here? Because they really are interested in what I'm saying. And some people just like to start mess and troll. And so they can't help themselves. They don't have anything else to do. Okay, so listen, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. It is 7:05. They're probably going to let us in about 7:45, I would think. I want to get me a bite to eat for breakfast. And then after they give the instructions or they answer the juror's question about the distribution, they're probably going to let us just come hang out or whatever and wait to see if the verdict comes in today. Hopefully it will. Maybe it won't. But either way, I'll be out here to give you guys another update, okay? So it's raining out here. It's a little hot out here, too. It stays hot in New York. I cannot wait to get back home. With that all being said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Thanks to all of my supporters, all of those who love the Queen, and for those of you who hate the Queen, shout out to you too, because I guess you got nothing better to do. All right, and if you don't have haters, hey, you're not doing something right, period. So enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And later today, I'm going to be doing a live with my friend, Secret Service Sam, and he's going to give his perspective, and I may add some other people as well. So stay tuned for that. All right, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.